What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Manny here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. This time I'm going to take you on a little trip. We just recently finished a little mini trip to Slovenia, to Osp to be more precise, to one of these very famous and very good limestone tufa heavy crags, especially in Misha Patch, which was the crag where we spent basically 100% of the climbing time in. It was an amazing trip. It was decently successful, I have to say, but the weather was quite okay. We had 1 day of sun and 2 days of clouds and a little bit of sun there as well, so it wasn't too cold and the conditions were quite okay. We didn't have any rain and stuff like that, so we had 3 consecutive climbing days in a row. In the morning of the first one we drove there, and in the evening of the third one we drove back. So this was a pretty compact little adventure, and it was a lot of fun, I have to say. I drove there with 2 of my good friends, with Torsten and with Alex, and I figured I do a little bit of a voiceover in regards to nutrition, because a lot of people have been asking in the meantime, hey Manny, what is your new kind of way of eating, you know, since you're not under the vegan umbrella anymore, what are you doing differently than in the times before that? And I want to give a special shout out here to a guy called Peter James, whose motivation in, you know, finding out my current eating habits and passion is beyond belief, I have to say. If only everybody of my subscribers would make so many comments under my videos, my algorithms would already be pushed through the roof, I have to say. Peter, I respect your passion, I respect your dedication. We are going to dive into my, how should I say, current eating habits a little bit here during this video. Now, the reason why I'm abstaining a little bit from doing what I eat in a day videos in recent times is, back in my vegan days I thought I know everything about nutrition. Nowadays at least I think I know more about nutrition, actually, because I have gained a little bit more experience, you know. My vegan days do not disappear. I know still how they felt, and I know the advantages, I know the disadvantages, and now I'm trying something a little bit different, and I know also the advantages and disadvantages of that. So, you know, that's how you gain experience, that's how you basically experiment with your body, and yeah, that's how you get wiser in the end, hopefully. So that's a little bit of the preface that I have to put out before I can start this video on a reasonable note, so to say. Let me also say, please, that I'm pretty aware of the fact that probably we are all different to some degree, and different ways of eating react differently with different kinds of people. Now, I would go so far to say that probably physiologically we are not that different from each other. However, what is different definitely is our bacterial set, so to say, that we have sitting in our stomachs, in our digestive tracts, and this is of course a huge factor when it comes to how a person reacts to certain foods. And this is probably also the main reason why different people react so differently to certain foods, because they have different gut microbiomes. They have different sorts of parasites, different sorts of bacterial strains down there. And of course, these can cause a lot of issues, just as well as they can cause great health benefits and stuff like that. So all this kind of things, you know, I'm aware that these things exist and that they are important, but I can't tell you how, I can't tell you what my gut microbiome looks like. To be honest, I don't know. I never took any test or stuff like that, at least not so far. So, however, what I am going to share in this video are the things that I am pretty sure at least affect me and my performance in quite a positive way. And I will also try to give a little bit of a comparison to how I did these things in former times when I was still vegan. So let's jump right into it. What did I have for breakfast during this trip? Nothing. Nothing. Those who are following this channel for a longer time now are probably aware of the fact that I'm quite a fan of fasting. I think fasting is a pretty healthy practice overall, and when it comes to implementing fasting into a regular routine, I'm pretty sure that intermittent fasting, or what is called OMAD, 1 meal a day, and all these different kind of names for essentially the same thing, they are kind of beneficial for your health. They increase digestive capacity. They give contrast to your eating habits essentially, and this is what you want. I think it's not very healthy to eat 7 meals a day spread out during the day, constantly keeping your insulin high, constantly having to secrete stomach acid, constantly having to secrete other digestive juices, all that stuff takes energy and it's gonna make you tired. And this is of course not what you want when you want to perform during the day. So for me, a typical morning, and also during this trip, a typical morning looks like I have a sip of lemon water. Now, lemon water is, for me, not 1 liter of water with the juice of half a lemon. No, it's basically half a glass of water, so that's maybe 100 mils or something, and the juice of half a lemon in that. So that's basically, 5 sips of water. And that I drink in the morning, and I feel that it's just a very good thing to wake up with, I have the feeling. The sourness of the lemon gives all the glands kind of a little bit of a push, kind of a little bit of a wake-up kick, and they start to secrete some stuff. I can feel that in my tear glands and my nasal glands and saliva and stuff like that, also the kidneys. You rush to the toilet instantly, and it feels like, it gives you a little bit of a detox wave in the morning. I know this sounds super pseudoscientific, but I don't care. That's just how I feel, and that's what my experience tells me, this is something beneficial. So, I implement it into my morning routine. And another thing that I'd like to mention in this context is that it's a lot easier to fast if you at least have something in the morning. For most people, this is a cup of coffee. And I'm not gonna lie to you, also for me, sometimes if I don't have access to lemons, and I've got my friends around who do some coffee, I don't own a coffee machine. I never buy coffee for myself, but when they make some and I don't have access to lemons, then I have a tiny cup of coffee. And the fascinating thing is that it acts kind of similar as the lemon water on the body. It gives all the glands this little push, and then I fast essentially. Most of the time I won't consume anything that has calories until noon at least. Actually, I stretch this window out oftentimes like 2 in the afternoon or something like that. In the context of climbing and also other sports, of course, where you want to perform, this has the advantage that if you get your session in the morning, which I personally think is ideal, you can do all your sports activity on a very low insulin level. And this is good. I've talked about this before. Insulin is the number 1 hormone that your body uses in order to orient itself, whether it should be in energy storing mode or in energy output mode. Now the thing is, if you're eating a big meal, lots of complex carbohydrates combined with protein and whatnot, then you're gonna raise your insulin because your blood sugar is going to rise, and it's gonna rise so much that your body has to regulate it down again by pushing this blood sugar out of your blood system into your cells. And the number 1 hormone, how it does that, is insulin. Now that's why if you're eating a heavy breakfast, like let's say for example a huge bowl of cereals and fruits and dried fruits and nuts and whatnot, this concoction is going to cause a quite substantial raise in insulin, and it's going to stay there for a longer time because these complex carbohydrates, they take some time to digest, So that's why I always said, and I already did that in my vegan days, if you get a breakfast, and make sure it's a light one, maybe have some pieces of fruit, 1 banana, 2 bananas, 1 banana and 1 orange or something like that, or a smaller fruit smoothie or something like that. Because then when some time elapses, let's say after 2 hours, this meal is going to be already digested, and your insulin is going to be low again, which is what you want if you want to perform. Because again, a low insulin is going to tell your body to be in energy output mode, and you're not going to be tired, you're not going to be very hungry, you're just going to perform, The contrary would be when your insulin is high, which is also very connected with tiredness. Okay, when your insulin rises, you're gonna be tired because your body wants to rest. It's gonna focus on producing digestive juices, digestive enzymes, and all that kind of stuff, which takes a lot of energy actually. and that's why you probably won't perform as good as if you would have an empty stomach and a low insulin. So that's how that comes into play. Now the thing is, of course, we can't perform forever, especially if we had no breakfast, if we don't eat something, if we don't get some energy in. And that's why I created myself a little concoction out of raw honey and raw milk. 2 tablespoons of raw honey and like, I don't know, 300-400 mils of raw milk mixed together, and it's gonna go in this little glass here, and that's what I'm having during the workout. You know, after the first 3 routes or something, when I feel that my blood sugar drops and my liver can't keep up with upholding this blood sugar, then I start sipping a few sips of that stuff every time when I come down from a route, and then every time when I get back on the route before that, I take a little bit of a piss and then I start. So this way I'm always as light as possible, and I am also fueled up a little bit. Now the thing is, if you sip too much of this stuff, then again, because this is a fluid and we've got very simple carbohydrates in here, some fructose and glucose, I think, from the honey, and also lactose from the milk, which doesn't necessarily have to be that way. You also can use sour milk mixed with honey with that, and you don't have any lactose in there. Because it's raw milk, you can simply leave that milk out for 3 days or something. It's gonna ferment, and the lactobacillus is gonna use up all that lactose and create acids. And it actually tastes pretty damn good mixed with the honey, to be honest. Then you know, if for example you're lactose intolerant, you can do it that way. But anyway, it's just a little bit of a detail. Now the thing with these 2 ingredients, honey and milk. Honey is obviously the fuel source. The sweetness of the honey, the sugar of the honey keeps you going during this very anaerobic sport that is climbing. You know, at least if you're bouldering or climbing shorter routes. I think if you're climbing super easy routes with like 40 meters or something, where you're essentially breathing your way up, this can be very aerobic as well, and there you get more into fat burning metabolism. But in general, I would say in the region that I'm moving a lot, it's a lot anaerobic, and that means we're going to burn a lot of carbohydrates. It also means that we're going to create a lot of oxidative water while burning these carbohydrates. You know, I've talked about this before in some of the fasting videos. If we burn energy inside of your body, we are creating oxidative water, and we are creating more oxidative water per calorie of carbohydrate burned compared to calorie of fat burned. So since I'm a very carb adapted person, I don't really need to drink anything during a session. You know, I have the feeling I always take a piss all the time. I'm creating this water inside of my body. I don't need to drink water or anything like that to flush me through even more. This is how I came up with that raw milk as a carrier for this fuel source of raw honey, so to say, because raw milk is actually extremely hydrating. And the way how you know that is if you're drinking raw milk, you're not gonna run to the toilet to take a piss instantly. If I drink a glass of water, I'm taking a piss like, I don't know, 15 minutes afterwards. If I'm drinking a glass of raw milk, first of all, nothing happens, you know. This just seems to diffuse into my body, and it doesn't really leave any additional fluids that have to be excreted, you know. And the reason why I think that is the case is that raw milk is actually a pretty nice mixture of minerals, a pretty nice combination of magnesium, calcium, phosphorus, whatnot. I don't know what exactly is there, but obviously it's made from an animal for an animal, and we are animals as well, you know, so we to some degree can utilize this stuff very well. Is it as ideal as human breast milk or something? Probably not, but yeah, for obvious reasons we can't utilize that, right? So we gotta make use of that. The next best would probably be raw goat's milk, or I don't know, raw sheep milk, whatnot, what kind of alternative milks are out there, but I'm pretty fine with digesting raw cow's milk, so that's what I'm going with so far. The total amount of milk-honey mixture that I'm consuming during a day of climbing is maybe 400 mils or something. Again, I do not take more than like 5 or 7 sips. every time I drink this, because I don't want to raise my blood sugar too much too quickly, because then again my body is forced to produce insulin to keep that blood sugar at bay, so to say. And I don't want to create insulin, because insulin is gonna make me tired. It's gonna turn my body into energy storing mode, and I don't want that. What am I doing as soon as the session is completed? As soon as the skin is wrecked and the energy is completely gone, the muscles are sore, then of course it would be cool to have something that bridges the little gap between the end of the session and the post-workout meal. Now, in the past, I always was a great fan of pre-cooking the post-workout meal, and I still am. This is actually still my go-to method if I'm on my own. Then I simply pre-cook my post-workout meal and have that instantly after the session is ended, still at the crag, or I don't know, in the car, something like that. Now, if I'm traveling with other people, of course, I'm just driving to the apartment with them, and we cook together and have this kind of a social thing, to cook together. So here something comes in very handy that bridges the gap between the end of the workout and the start of the post-workout meal. So here in this case I utilized some of this fruit mousse, which again is very sweet, is very watery. You can also use that essentially as a during the workout meal, no problem. I just use it here, to kind of bridge the gap and have something to chew on. Again, I consume it very slowly because it's very sweet. I don't want to, spike the hell out of my insulin. I actually want to save all that digestive contrast for the big post-workout meal that comes in, like, let's say 1 hour or something, And this is where this basically ends for the day, the big post-workout meal. Now it's time to get the calories in. So I'm smashing in a lot of this stuff basically. And this is, it's almost kind of a bit of a stretched out OMAD approach here. We are fasting until noon at least, maybe even until 2 in the afternoon. And then I'm gonna start with my little honey milk mixture, gonna smash that in until the session is over, bridging the gap to the post-workout meal with a little bit of fruit mousse, and then smashing in the post-workout meal, like at least 2,500 calories or something like that. Raising the blood sugar, raising the insulin once per day properly and fully, and digesting this stuff throughout the evening and also throughout the night, essentially. And then waking up in the morning, perfectly well digested this stuff, and having my lemon water again, kind of sanitizing my whole digestive tract and getting my glands going. Bam, good wake up call in the morning. And then rinse and repeat, essentially, fasting until noon again, and then starting with the honey milk mixture again. Now, this way, as you can see, it's kind of an intermittent fasting approach. I would say my eating window on average is like about 6 hours of the day. So I've got 18 hours of fasting per day, which is for me personally a kind of a good ratio. Of course, there is room for experimentation. You can always try to decrease the eating window even further and increase the fasting window even further. You can also try to do 48s, like fasting for even 2 days. Another thing is, with this approach, you never get into fasting for ketosis, okay, which is another thing that could or could not be beneficial for certain things. I've experimented with that as well with my keto sticks, so that when you're actually hitting ketosis. So without getting into too much detail here, so how is this different from the approach that I did when I was still vegan? Now, first of all, it is very much harder to fast when you're really completely honest 100% vegan. This is something, again, that I found out during this Spain trip at the beginning of this year, when it was exceptionally cold and I did burn a hell lot of calories while climbing during the day. Not only because you move a lot, but also because you're cold all the time and your body has to create some warmth, to keep you warm. What you could do and could try is up your fat intake, and of course I tried that. The problem is with plant fats, they kind of mess up my skin a little bit, and they mess with my performance. After a huge meal of plant fats, the next day, the performance of the next day is essentially screwed. I did not have this effect when I increased my intake of animal fats, interestingly. So animal fats, they do not interfere with my skin health, and they also do not interfere with my performance, interestingly. Of course, after a huge animal fat meal, when you try to perform like 1 hour after that, then you're gonna be screwed. But on the next day, you're gonna be ready to go. So this is something that I noticed when it comes to fats, because it's one argument of the vegan diet all the time. Yeah, then simply increase your fat intake, But plant fats, I think they are not designed for us to consume in large quantities. Simple as that. I feel a lot better if I consume animal fats in this kind of quantity and almost no plant fats at all. So at the moment I'm kind of low on plant fats. I have my nuts and seeds from time to time, and I also have avocados, but essentially I'm zero oil, which is what I already was back then when I was vegan, because I'm pretty sure that oils are bad for 99% of the people, and including myself. Again, they messed up my skin and they messed up my performance. So much about the fats. When I was still vegan, the part of the honey milk mixture would be replaced by some fruit, essentially. And my go-to fruit, as you all know, was always the banana. I simply took some bananas with me to the crag, and from time to time I would eat half a banana. Always when I come down from one attempt, I eat one banana, and next attempt I'm ready to go again, or 1/2 a banana, I should say. So you could ask the question now, how is the honey milk mixture better than bananas during the workout or other fruit, and is it better at all? I would say it's not much of a difference, actually. I would give the honey milk mixture the edge, the slight edge, because I think that in the milk, the mineral balance is much better than in the banana. Bananas have a hell lot of potassium, and I think that if you're eating a lot of bananas during the day, you might disbalance your body minerals slightly, which is not the case on the honey milk mixture. On bananas, I also peed significantly more during a session compared to the honey milk mixture, which is, again, I assume here that the honey milk mixture is actually better when it comes to hydrating the body, which is why it diffuses into your body and stays there. It doesn't trigger your kidneys in terms of it's got to rebalance some minerals in your blood, and that's why you're pissing all the time. And who knows what you're losing, when you're going to piss all the time. What kind of minerals are, secreted out of your body in order to restore this balance. So in terms of mineral balance, I think the honey milk mixture is pretty good. Another maybe more unexpected advantage of the honey milk mixture is that it is completely local. I can get raw milk from around the corner here where I live now, and I can also get this raw honey from around the corner where I live now. These things are local products here in Austria on the countryside. Now, if I have to buy 10 bananas per day, these bananas are shipped around the globe, which is now not necessary anymore. So these things I consider as well. And yeah, that's why the honey milk mixture gets the edge here. When it comes to the big post-workout meal, that obviously is now also different. You've seen some cheese there, you've seen some fish there as well. The thing is, again, it's a lot easier to fast for longer periods if you're having animal products. If you're just having vegan meals, like let's say a lot of carbohydrates, let's say rice with vegetables and a little bit of avocado and nuts maybe for the fats, then you're gonna get hungry again. If you're starting to eat that stuff at 6 in the afternoon, you're finished at 7, and you're staying up until 10 or 11 maybe in the afternoon, then you're gonna get hungry again, and you're gonna want that dessert, You're gonna want that fatty, sweetie kick again before you go to bed. And this is something that I noticed, which is significantly different on a post-workout meal where animal products are mixed in, because they satiate you a lot longer and a lot better. And it's also easier to not have breakfast after such a nice, satiating post-workout meal, because you're simply not hungry a lot. can just smash in your lemon water and you're ready to go, ready to fast again until the afternoon. So this is basically the routine that I followed during this trip. I never ate sooner than noon. I think once I ate at noon precisely, and the other 2 times I ate on around 2 o'clock in the evening. That's when I started. That's when I cracked open my honey milk mixture for the first time and had a few sips to keep my blood sugar up, so that I don't run into problems with energy supply, but only so much that I don't spike the hell out of my insulin, because I don't want to get tired. And then I sipped that until the end of the session, bridged the gap to the post-workout meal a little bit with some fruit, and then smashed in a huge post-workout meal. So essentially OMAD here with an eating window of roughly 6 hours. This is a pretty good approach, I have to say. It's also keeping you light during the session, as light as you can be at least, which was probably the main factor why I didn't perform so well during this trip, because essentially I'm pretty heavy at the moment in general. This is another point we could discuss about how fattening are animal products actually, and they definitely are more fattening than, let's say, just a vegan high carb diet. The question really is it healthy to be super lean and super thin all the time, Again, I've noticed significant benefits here when it comes to resistance against cold. The skin is healthier. I have more resistance against the sun, which is pretty interesting for me as well. I don't get sunburned so easily now these days. And all these kinds of things, I maybe have to do a separate video to discuss all these again. But yeah, this is essentially how I ate during this little Slovenia trip. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it, especially Peter James. Keep up the cool comments, keep commenting, keep liking the videos, push the algorithms, please. And I'll see you soon in the next one. Bye.